Hello, class. I wanted to talk to you about the difference between specific statements and general statements. Specific statements are usually details or facts that apply in only one situation or to one person or one event or one time period or one location, but they can't be applied to many. General statements, on the other hand, could be said about many different situations or people or locations. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. So, say we are doing a piece on war. If we were talking about a specific war, we could say, in the Civil War, soldiers still were issued swords. That would be a specific detail. And if we said that, that wouldn't apply to World War One. Or and it wouldn't apply in the war in Afghanistan. Or if we're talking about in World War One, they spent much of their time in trenches. That doesn't apply to the other two situations of war because it is too specific. However, we could make some general statements. We could say, in war, soldiers are given weapons in order to fight their battles. Or we could say, in war, there's a lot of violence and bloodshed. So that is a more general statement. That would apply to the Civil War. There was a lot of violence and bloodshed, and soldiers were given weapons. It would apply in World War One, and it would also apply in the war in Afghanistan. So a general statement will apply to more than one situation or person or place or thing. So let's talk about how that affects our writing in our paragraphs. Let's look at the pattern that I've asked you guys to use when we're writing a paragraph. Your topic sentence, you need to make a general statement. So you don't want to put any names or dates or anything like that in your topic sentence because you're making a general statement that expresses the big idea of your paragraph. For example, weapons are an important part of war. Okay, then you're going to probably need to make some sort of a transition before you start talking about the specific details that you found in the text that you were reading. Otherwise, it's going to feel really choppy. So you can do that using just a single word like first, or sometimes you might use a phrase like for example, or sometimes it makes sense to use a full sentence that can kind of bridge the gap between your general statement and your specific details. So once you get to the details, you're going to be given actual facts. You can use numbers, names, events, things like that in the details section of your paragraph. So you're going to want to get very specific. And in between each of those details, you're probably also going to want to use some more transition words to let your reader know that you're moving from one fact to the next. So then we're going to talk about your conclusion. Now, the conclusion can get a little bit complicated. So, your first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to want to wrap it back up and tie it back to your general statement that you made. Also, it's a good idea to start with a transition phrase that will let your reader know that you are now wrapping it up, such as in conclusion, in short, in summary, things like that. You're going to quickly refer back to the original idea of your topic sentence, but then you're going to delve into what you want the reader to do about the information that you provided. So in this context, and for my class only, so if you're writing for the ISAT, you're probably going to want to stop there. But for my class, I've asked you guys to take their conclusions a little bit farther and to make a specific, actionable recommendation at the end of your conclusion. So let's go ahead and use our previous example and make a paragraph using that pattern. So, first of all, we want to have our one word big idea. So, we were talking about weapons of war. So, good. So that shows that that's our big idea is weapons of war. Then we're going to give some sort of a transition. So weapons are very important in a war. For example, the Civil War was fought with swords. They also had short-range guns with bayonets for when they ran out of ammo, and it made the fighting up close and personal. Men could see the looks of the faces of their enemies as they fought. At Gettysburg, 50,000 soldiers died. President Lincoln, this made At Gettysburg, 50,000 soldiers died, and President Lincoln asked Meade to pursue his enemies and strike a decisive defeat. But Meade delayed, and after so much bloodshed, he couldn't continue to force his soldiers to fight. They were pretty torn up after Gettysburg, and they didn't want to keep fighting, even though had they done that, it would have made a quick end to the war. So the weapons of war affect the decisions that are made by the generals. When people can see the destruction that they cause up close and personal, it changes their future actions and decisions. So my recommendation is, and I don't know if you can see it, this keeps covering it up. Yeah. So my recommendation is that as weapons developers, they need to be very careful about the types of weapons they're developing, because if you have a weapon that's more anonymous or can be shot from a greater distance, it could result in greater bloodshed, because the generals and the soldiers will make different decisions if their enemy if they don't see the results of their weapons. So I hope that helps. I hope that helps you understand how you might build a paragraph using this pattern. You want to start with the big idea and you want to end with the big idea, and these need to be general statements that could be applied to more than one situation. In the middle, though, you want to fill it with details that would help you back up your statement and prove your point. All right, hope that helps.